Hello and welcome to a VCCircle podcast. My name is Narinder Kapoor and with me today is Sumit Verma of EdTech startup Kopykitab. Sumit, thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Sumit, could you sort of introduce us before we move further into the conversation? Could you introduce us to Kopykitab? Could you introduce us to the company? Maybe a bit of background about how it came about and, what is the overall thesis that the company brings to the table in the space?
Sure, Narinder. I and my co-founder Amit both worked in a pretty decent time in corporate world's respective industry. Amit is from IIT, computer science graduate. So he worked in, he's a geek, so worked in Bay Area and India, both in the startup domain and security domain. And he's also from my school. We belong to same school. Mm-hmm. So, and I worked with the companies like Coca-Cola and 3M, and then I was in US. And we were discussing about, we keep chatting being from same school. And one incident we were discussing about problems we faced during our college days, and that's what the idea of Kopykitab was born from there. The problems we faced while having that kind of curated content requirement, especially in smaller towns in India. Mm-hmm. And similarly, the guys in bigger cities have to spend so much time for reaching out relevant content or teacher. Mm-hmm. So this is where the idea of Kopykitab was born, and me and Amit thought like this can be solved by technology. And here we are today. So if you see, there are like 40 million students in India in higher education domain, and they spend close to $40 billion a year. Mm-hmm. And if you see, there's a huge gap in quality of content and quality of teachers in most of the campus over here. Mm-hmm. And we see and we talk about that our education system is broken, but nothing is being done much about it. So if you see, students when they are in school or college, all of us can relate when we were in school or college, what subjects we were good at. Mm-hmm. The subject we are good at, where we got very good teacher or coach, or we got something bad and we were able to score good into that. So what happens typically, Narinder, that when these kids land into college, they were hand-holded at a school level for teaching and coaching. When they are in college, they are all by themselves. And plus, they're not having that kind of availability in the college level, which they don't have much control over. So gradually, they start losing interest in the subject. And by the time they graduate, they are not so employable. So this is what Kopykitab is trying to solve. When they're in college, we are reversing the problem. And when they are there, they can, start getting engaged, better understand the concept. They can get a relevancy of everything. And when they're better engaged and learning the concept better, so by the time they graduate, they are much better prepared to get employed over there.
So can you take me a bit further into the product itself? If I was part of your target audience, I have graduated from a school and now I'm in college and I have gone through the entire coaching and tuitions rigmarole and now I'm left to my own devices. How exactly or what kind of services will Kopykitab provide me to make that journey easier or to provide me with the relevant content I need?
So if you see typical, right from our days to present day students, nothing has been changed much. If you see all they need in their learning journey, they need a textbook, which is relevant to their curriculum. Mm-hmm. Every geography might have different kind of preferred textbooks, but they need to have textbooks. They need to have notes. It could be prepared by themselves or teachers or their class toppers. But they need to have notes, or they can borrow photocopies from a next door photocopy shop. Mm-hmm. And then after that, content-wise, when they feel, okay, I got something, they still are not sure of, so they try to get a good tutor around the city. It could be outside tuition classes or coaching classes, or they try to get something from peer side also. And and then they look for additional stuff. It might be previous question papers, or it might be, MCQs. So typically these 4 or 5 things they need to have in their whole learning journey, and it leaves them very overwhelmed. Like still till the last day of exam, they keep looking for stuff. Is it enough for me to score good in the exams? So this is how the learning journey is there, and they have to go different places to get access of these things. Mm-hmm. So this is where our thought came into, like, okay, Kopykitab should become one-stop destination, so they don't have to go here and there. So that's where the relevancy. For example, if I am in some southern university, or suppose there's a technical university in Bangalore, which has 200 colleges, the pattern of consumption of those students, They might be studying only from notes and textbooks. They don't need a tutor. Or there's there's a school in Jaipur where students need more of the teachers and notes only. They might need not to have any of the textbooks. So everywhere the pattern and relevancy changes. That includes language also, right? So when there's a pattern, so you have to understand these students what they're looking for, and it has to be on click access, because this generation wants everything on the go. You need food, you need cab, everything they want on the go. So right, that applies to their education also, and that's where this thing comes into play, and that's where Kopykitab helps them. That okay, you want everything on the go related to your university, your institute. It is there on a click for you, and you save time and money, and plus it is very relevant, and you have better output over here with us.
So before we kind of move a bit further, I think one question I have to ask you here is that the kind of model that you've explained to me, this means that you will need sort of deep partnerships with institutions, not just the national ones, but the ones that operate at regional levels as well. Can you explain this to me? How do these partnerships work, or what kind of partnerships do you form with institutions?
Sure. I'll just add one more point in that, Narendra. It's a very good question. Everything has to be student-centric. What is to be offered to the market or student, it has to arise from what they are looking for rather than what I feel is good for a student. So this is what has been our secret for Kopykitab. We have been continuously working on that. So while doing that, we thought we will reach out to partners. It could be content providers or it could be campuses who know the market better than anybody out there. And we'll learn from them, and we'll have better and deeper insight about the market from these guys. And then accordingly, we can offer them. So we started reaching out to campuses, and that's where we learned that what they are looking for. And that's where we were getting more information of the campus. In addition to that, we were acquiring the students from the campuses. So it was it is win-win for Kopykitab both ways, getting deep insight about the market. And today we have presence, for example, in more than 500 campuses. Out of that, 400 campuses are paid customers. When we reach out to campuses, similarly, we thought our B2C platform also, when we have enough insight about respective geographies. So later part of 2016, we also started B2C because we had enough data about different geographies and institute in the country. Like what kind of behaviors are there, and when these students are coming, what they would be looking for. And that's why when we started our B2C platform in later part of 2016, we had all organic traffic coming on Kopykitab platform. Today, when we have 6 million downloads, we haven't spent a single penny to acquire these students. And that comes with 80% of returning users on our platform, and 80% of these students are coming again and again, and we are having one of the highest engagement on the platform, which is like 25 minutes per session per visit on our platform. So when we played around key things, which is relevancy, deeper insight about the campuses and market and what they're looking for, and addressing real problem for them, that things started happening automatically, and we were able to develop a flywheel for getting customers and offering them what they're looking for.
And now you want to push further into the higher education space.
In terms of the market approach, you're right. See, as I mentioned in the beginning, higher education is a serious business. You would see there's a lot of action happened in K-12 lately in India. For example, Baiju became biggest company across the globe, and it started, a lot of action. The whole industry became very fertile because one success, leads to a lot of, inspiration for other people out there, and a lot of competition also evolved eventually in K-12. Higher education, unlike US or China market, has yet to see a lot of action over there. There are similar players which has become huge companies and unicorns in US and China also. For example, Check or Code Zero or Haikaido in China. These are the companies became unicorn and similar models in higher education. India so far has, I would call, we have scratched the surface. We have test prep companies, we have upskilling companies who are addressing students when they are in final years of the college. But nobody has been able to address their whole journey when they are enrolling into year one in the college, and enrolling them for better outcomes when they are graduating from the college. So there's a huge gap, and I do see the way it happened to these market I mentioned in Western world and in Asia and China. I think India is due for the kind of opportunity and growth in this segment. That's why we chose higher education, because it's a huge opportunity and it's a serious business.
So explain to me how, because you did do a fresh round of funding very recently as well to support this. But explain to me how this push will work from your own end. What exactly will you now bring to the table and say this is our suite of services that is going to see you through?
So if you see, Narendra, as I mentioned, a couple of companies, so it evolved like that. Content become your customer acquisition strategy, you acquire students organically, and for us, it has become a zero CAC so far. Okay. And when we're going forward, we are adding offerings. Like for example, recently after COVID, we added our tutor services on the platform because it's been demanded by students for quite some time. And as I mentioned, everything, whatever we have done on Kopykitab platform is been student-centric. So whatever they ask, we offer them. So when they started asking tutor, and in higher education, nobody was able to offer them what they're looking for. We thought like, okay, we have huge user base and they're asking for these additional services. So let them offer them. But more importantly, it has to be focused on what they're missing for is quality. So we focus on quality. So we added tutor vertical. So recent funding which has come, we are building technology around tutor vertical and additionally peer-to-peer learning. Mm-hmm. So that is the next step, forward integration for our ecosystem where tutors are there and peer-to-peer learning is also there. If you remember during dorm days, we are in hostel and you're somebody who would have understood the concept. They would explain all the classmates in the hostel for that concept at night before examination. So that becomes virtual now. So whoever is good in that concept, he's there to help you out wherever you are sitting across the globe, not only in India. So peer-to-peer services, tutor, and then we have tested AI and ML because it's a huge play in education for these technologies. So we have tested and it is working beautifully, more on relevancy side and the right recommendation. So we have done these things. So we are going to invest this money on technology and adding the services like I just mentioned about.
And how do you see this helping your top line?
So top line, just to give you an example, recently, after COVID, when we started things and things started coming up pretty fast, we have grown before investment. We have been growing consistently every year. That's why you would have seen most of the investors, they've been participating. Our existing investors, they have shown confidence on us always. They've been participating in each of the rounds. So the reason is, we have been growing very consistent rate. And in addition to that, during COVID, we have grown 3x on revenue side. Engagement, despite adding, doubling the number of monthly active users, our engagement is still being consistent, which is 25 minutes per session per user, which is one among the highest engagement matrices in EdTech in India. And 80% of them are coming back to us. So our idea is when we have, low CAC, as of now, zero, but when we scale up, we'll have more investment going on customer acquisition. So our focus would be on adding services, high margin products and high revenue kind of thing. And we already started doing that. When we started tuition in last 2.5 months after adding tutors, we already have 2,000 tutors enrolled with us. And every month back on back classes are happening. There are close to 8,000 students attending the classes as of now within 2 months time. So we do see there's a very sweet spot for us to grow where we have huge user base and we are offering them additional services, what they were looking for. And we just to add that additional product and services for these students.
Before I move further, I want to ask you here, you mentioned that you want to sort of take students with you with Kopykitab on their entire journey. And you also mentioned this in context of upskilling, reskilling companies, or even test prep companies. Could you give me an idea then of the kinds of companies you see as your competitors? Could you give me some examples or names that you see that, okay, this is the competition or these are the established people in this industry that we are competing with?
So to answer that question, see different categories are there. People are doing a piece of that. For example, in K-12, Byju's taking whole tutoring, coding and teaching thing with content, right? So they are in K-12. They might choose to come to higher education eventually. Right now, they're not competition directly. Then in test prep, there are companies like, right from Imbibe to an academy for examination preparations. So Scalar Academy for upskilling, Coding Ninja, and all those companies are there who are doing coding. So for them, their model has been, then their CAC would be recurring nature. They're investing a huge money. You would see people who have raised big money. They're sponsoring events, sports, and all that. So their CAC is already pretty high, and they're investing on that. They might choose come down to reverse integration or forward integration for their existing market or product. But as of now, what we are doing, maybe content side. If you see text side, Amazon is doing text B2C. If you see institutional content side in higher education, then iNurture is doing some part of content, if not all. And it's not the branded content what we offer as a platform. So they are there in institutional side, and then combining both B2B, B2C, and matrixing whole journey of a student. We don't see much of the players right now going the way we are into right now. But yes, there's a competition certainly there, and these companies are doing their respective things beautifully and have executed it beautifully.
So then what do investors, and I refer specifically to Kopykitab's own investors, what do your investors find most attractive about your business model or your user base? Is it the zero cost of customer acquisition, or is it the kind of partnerships that you've built with your content and education providers? Could you explain that to me, please?
What our existing investors likes us most about, and they are very seasoned investor, if you know their profile. So, and they understand the industry. That is most important to us, right? So the number one thing they liked about us is, we as founder been able to execute what we promise, and they've been seeing what we promise. We have been delivering more than that every year-on-year basis. So that is number one they like. Number two they like most about us is we know the market very deeply. The market we are into, we have pretty decent knowledge and information about how a market behaves and what we are going after. So we know what business we are into and what we are going after. So our understanding is pretty clear, and we are pretty clear on our trajectory. So that's number two they like about us. Obviously, customer acquisition or monetization or engagement, these are the part of execution, right? So they like us, like our execution has been happening pretty decently, and this company is pretty well placed to scale the business, and they are just waiting to look us into those companies like I mentioned about that we are on that trajectory, and we are pretty well prepared for that. So that's why they've been supporting that right kind of capital support. This company is right on the about to take big leap in this vertical. This is what they like about us.
So the reason I ask you that question is because we've seen this year that EdTech has sort of taken hold of public attention the way probably no other startup category has. And what we have also seen is that instead of people just seeing the names Byju's, Unacademy, Vedantu, Topper dominate headlines, we've also seen a whole host of other startups in different niches also raise funding and grab public and customer attention. Could you give me an idea of then where you see this market going in the next 2 to 3 years? Are there any particular trends that we in the public or even we in the journalist community should be looking out at?
So I'll touch a bit of K-12 and I'll talk more about higher education.
Yes, of course.
In the here. So you would see Fierce Better has already been taken over in K-12. A lot of cash flow has been there from investor side. Company got very big check size been given to K-12 sector. So K-12 is kind of, if you see, a lot of models have been evolved lately, and more than 50-60 new companies are coming up in EdTech space lately every month. That makes more than 4,500 companies in EdTech space in India. So yes, there's a lot of traction in there in EdTech space. But if you see as a headline, as a journalist, so there's a two big difference. One is company who raised huge capital. Mostly of them were K-12, except Unacademy and Upgrade, and all big ticket sizes. Which makes like headline $1.8 billion has come to EdTech, has flown in for EdTech. Most of the money has gone for these big companies.
Right.
Then comes you won't see you would see hardly 4 or 5 deals happen in Series A or B level,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would see very early seed or angel level deals happening in Indian market. So I would say in 2021, the companies who have built their product within then their POC market is already been tested for them and ready to scale. So you would see action coming to those companies who are trying to raise Series A or B kind of rounds. So you would see that kind of deals coming in that market. Now I'll talk about higher education. So as I mentioned in early conversation, higher education is yet to get its due in coming times, and now people are even overseas investor for us also, like
Mm-hmm.
people we have been approached by overseas investor who understand this space, and whoever understand higher education space, they know that it is a serious business, and they investors are going to get good returns if they pick up a right in portfolio company for themselves. So I think in coming 2 to 3 years, higher education would say good traction and good scale on that. And for whole industry, I would say new models are going to evolve. For example, unlike Western world, you would see lesser transaction happening e-commerce model.
Okay.
When I'm saying e-commerce model, I mean to say online model. Most of them, customer acquisition happening through online, and then selling is happening offline through telecallers or knocking the doors and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike these countries in China or US, I would say. So this is something going to evolve. Eventually, people are not shying off with big ticket size. People are already, you would see in K-12. They're getting used to paying 40, 50,000 even ticket size with Vedantus and Byju's.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be open to pay similar kind of tickets size for online platforms, the way it happened to e-commerce with Flipkart a couple of years back. So same thing would be happening to edtech space also. Second is e-commerce is something going to happen, and three is I think very high adoption when K-12 kids, when they are moving to colleges and when they are being given so much offering at greater level, they need something to support them when they're in higher education also. So consumer behavior also, when it happened to like demonetization happened, made it digital payment thing. So same thing because of pandemic happened to education also. So whole consumer behavior has shifted to digital. So when they are in school, they are quite well taken care of now. When they are in college, they need some that kind of support. So when they are graduating in coming 2 or 3 years, they'll be needing huge support from higher education side also. So those early trends you would see, and you would see a lot of new models coming up, a lot of new technology. One day, other day, I saw a blockchain company coming in higher education.
Okay.
Then you would see a lot of AR, VR, XR content companies are coming in for even for education or upskilling or skill development. Those things are coming up, and similarly, lot of new models, alternate models are coming up for. And also, I see traditional learning or formal education also going to be take another shift in the next 2 to 3 years. Formal education, rather than people would be focusing on informal education, and they have access of a whole globe now on fingertips. So they have an option to choose what they want to learn and where they want to learn from, rather than running after one XYZ institute and learn from there only. And you have seen this year it happened to whole quota industry. Like all big national players of quota have moved to online platform.
Yeah, that is
Similarly,
definitely
it
true.
would happen to you. Yes.
So then, as a final question, keeping all that you've said in context, how do you see Kopykitab being positioned over this next 2 to 3 year period, or even the 1 year period, especially considering this major push you're going for in the higher education space?
So I think we are eventually becoming one-stop destination, Narinder, for higher education student. And as I mentioned, we focus on customer orientation, and we go after what they are looking after. So our focus would be how much we can delight them. And as Mr. Jeff Bezos always quote, like they never planned Amazon to be like this way, right? They went after delighting customers, and that's how product kept evolving for that. Same thing for Kopykitab. Our customers are delighted, and we keep them happy and happy again and again, and that's how we are happy. So I think in numbers, we already have 6 million downloads. So I think by next year we should be having 10 million user base, and very high. Our focus will be again keep them in same sequence: acquiring, engaging, and monetization. So we'll be keep doing that with higher revenue side and higher ticket size on that side. This is what Kopykitab would be eventually, one-stop destination with high revenue and high ticket size in coming year.
Okay, and I think that's a great way to end the conversation then on this hopeful note for Kopykitab. Thank you so much, Sumit Verma, for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Narinda, for having me. It was nice talking to you.
Same here. Thank you.